Carney. Let's listen in.
We have a lot of things to discuss, including our farmers. Right? They have a lot of things to discuss. The various trade deals that have been made in the past, and some broken, some not broken, but we've got many things. I think it's going to turn.
The announcement comes after Canada indicated its willingness to resume trade talks with the United States. Now, the U.S. President Trump terminated talks with Canada last Thursday, following an anti-tariff advertisement released by Ontario's provincial government. The video used footage of former President Ronald Reagan to warn against tariffs, although the message misrepresented Reagan's support for tariffs when needed. Speaking further on the controversial ad, the U.S. president has criticized the commercial as misleading and said it caused confusion over U.S. trade policy. He has further emphasized that the United States is using tariffs to only protect its national security and reclaim economic losses from previous administrations. Meanwhile, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has said the ads will continue to air during the weekend's World Series games to reach a larger U.S. audience. He has also noted that the campaign will be paused starting Monday to allow trade talks to resume between U.S. and Canada. Now, for this discussion, we welcome David K. Johnson. He's an American author, joins us live from Toronto. Thank you, David, for joining us again. Good to see you. David, how do you see this Ontario's government's ad, and how do you see it could have reflected on Trump's eyes or his perspective?
Well, Canadians are very upset with the United States. Many of them will not even cross the border to visit relatives in the United States. That's why I'm in Canada right now visiting relatives. They view the conduct of Donald Trump as just unimaginably awful. And the trade agreement that Trump keeps denouncing was the trade agreement he created when he was president previously. So this is to Canadians very disturbing. Trump has said Canada is minor trading partner. Canada is America's #1 trading partner, bigger than China. But Trump doesn't know that because he is so appallingly ignorant. And by the way, he has no power to impose tariffs, none at all. The Constitution of the United States reserves the power for taxes and tariffs exclusively to Congress.
And David, looking back at Canada, how does Canadian domestic political campaigns, like the Ontario's anti-tariff advertisement, influence their trade negotiations with U.S.? And what strategies or information warfare is this? And can governments prevent such interference?
Well, the ad that Doug Ford ran is consistent with all other advertising I'm seeing here in Toronto yesterday and today. It's incredibly anti-American, pro-Canada. Ontario province, which is where I am, we're on the move, we're building, we're manufacturing, we're going places. And this is a complete change from how Canada was, along with Australia and the United Kingdom, essentially lapdog partners of the United States since the end of World War II. So from the Canadian perspective, Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario Province, got out his message. It doesn't matter that he's not broadcasting it anymore. And Trump is going nowhere with these deals. And one of the things that Trump doesn't understand is that there are parts in American-made cars that are ultimately assembled in Michigan or Kentucky or Ohio or New York, that cross the border during the manufacturing process between the US and Canada, sometimes 24 times. So what Trump is doing is completely messing up the logistics of auto manufacturing, and this is a huge benefit to, unintentionally, China.
Wow. So you're saying Trump does not understand or foresee these intertwinedness. And how is it benefiting Canada as well?
Well, the Canadians will suffer some if Trump continues with his illegal, unconstitutional trade policies, but they're also not going to just knuckle under. And of course, Trump began all this by saying, well, we're just going to make Canada the 51st state. Another example of how Trump has no idea of what's in the American Constitution and behaves as a dictator. So Canadians will do just fine. What the US needs to worry about is this. If you turn on your best friends, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, Japan, if the European Union, the UK, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, India, and perhaps China get together and create a new trade zone, the US becomes irrelevant.
Yes, indeed. And do you see a rise in Canadian nationalism over there? As I also studied college in Canada, so when I was there, I didn't really feel Canadians had such strong nationalism. But do you see it rising over there now?
It is stunning, the change that has taken place in less than a year in Canadian attitudes. Because one of my children is a lawyer, hopefully soon a judge here in Canada, I come across the border all the time to visit with her. And I am just struck by the change in attitude, whether you're talking to the hotel clerk where we checked in, or listening to people in a restaurant, or talking to people anywhere else. The tone of anti-Americanism is very clear, it's very dominant. Canadians, of course, are thrilled beyond belief that last night in the first game of the World Series, named for a newspaper, by the way, the New York World, not for the Planet, that they won 11-4 over the team in LA. They're like so giddy about this. This is not a good thing, to turn on your best friends and try to extract from them things that you have no authority to extract and that won't help you, they'll hurt you.
Yes, I hope that message is sent to Trump. But thank you very much, David, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, US President Donald Trump has said that he hopes for a great meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, speaking on his way to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Trump has further stated that he looks forward to discussions aimed at ending the ongoing trade war between the world's two largest economies. Let's listen into what he has said.
Discuss, including our farmers. That may have a lot of things to discuss. The various trade deals that have been made in the past, and some broken, some not broken, but we've got many things. I think it's going to turn out to be a very good meeting.
The meeting with Xi Jinping is scheduled for the final day of Trump's trip to the region in South Korea, where leaders are expected to explore ways to reach a mutually beneficial trade agreement. Now we go back to welcoming David K. Johnson. He's an American author, joins us live from Toronto. Thank you very much, David, for joining us again and staying with us throughout this. Now, what strategies can Trump or has Trump historically used in high-stakes diplomatic meetings with Asian countries, particularly with Xi, and what can we expect now?
Well, Trump has operated the same way for his entire life, and I've been covering him as a journalist for almost 40 years. He operates from bullying people, from finding something he can use against them, say some secret someone has hidden from their business partners or their wife, and essentially blackmails him into the terms that he wants. The problem is that isn't going to work with someone like President Xi, who is highly educated, incredibly disciplined, and isn't subject to Donald's emotional and threatening attitudes. China at this point has an economy that by some measures is slightly larger than the American economy. Per person, it's a lot less because China has a bigger population, but China is on the move and it's growing, and in many ways doesn't need the US. And it has, at least for the next decade or so, this powerful card to play, and that's access to rare earths like neodymium, which are essential in the world we live in now with digital products, smart bombs, things like that. So Xi is actually in a much stronger position than Trump. And Donald, Donald just makes things up. He creates his own reality. He claims to be the world's greatest expert on 22 subjects, one of which I have a global reputation in, tax policy. And yet his statements all the time show he doesn't know anything. It's just con artistry because he's a con man. So how this is going to go, I don't know, but you'll be smarter to put bets on Xi than Trump.
And how do you think, how could Trump frame the success or failure of this meeting, building on your answer, also especially domestically for its American MAGA supporters or American viewers to strengthen his political narrative on economic leadership or, MAGA's leadership?
This is where Trump is beginning to have a problem. The poorly educated, as he calls his MAGA base, don't have critical thinking skills. A large portion of the American public is essentially illiterate. More than 1 in 5 Americans reads at the level of a 7 or 8-year-old, and more than half at the level of an 11-year-old. But the economy in America has started to go backwards. We started to lose jobs. Inflation is rising. The soybean farmers have not lost China as a market. We sold $13 billion of soybeans to China last year, haven't lost them for a year or temporarily, we've lost them. China has now arranged to get all the soybeans it wants from Brazil, Argentina, Australia, and others. So going forward, Trump's going to have to come up with diversions to try and get people to not think about the worsening economy. And how he's going to do it, I don't know. I can't tell you the specific tactics, but diversion and attacking other people as illegitimate, attacking his American critics as treasonous, as he's called the Democratic Party in effect, suggesting through his aides that the Democratic Party, which I have no affiliation with, is an extremist organization. That's what he's going to have to do going forward to divert attention from an economy that has stopped growing as it did quite well under Biden.
And lastly, how might his approach to U.S.-China trade negotiations reflect his broader trade policy priorities? As you mentioned, he has his own priorities during his presidency.
Well, Donald is a believer in mercantilism, which was the dominant economic theory prior to Adam Smith writing The Wealth of Nations 199 years ago. Donald believes that if India has a dollar or China has a dollar and the U.S. doesn't have it, the only way the U.S. can grow wealthier is by taking that dollar through some mechanism. He doesn't understand that human beings have become very good at creating wealth. We're not very good at distributing wealth, but we're very good at creating wealth. And Trump has spent his whole life cheating people, not paying for goods, not paying for services, literally cheating people at one of his casinos, as I proved years and years ago, decades ago. And so his view of trade matters is based on his misunderstanding of economics. And the irony of this is Donald holds a degree in economics from one of the best universities in America. The problem is he didn't earn that degree. It was given to him.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, David. Always fun learning from you. Thank you. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well.